The world was burning. Flames rose high into the black sky, covering the stars. Broken ships lay across the ground, twisted metal glowing with heat. The smell of smoke and death filled the air. She moved slowly between the ruins, her small body shaking with fear. Her name was Kara. She was the last of her people. Once her home was full of life. Children laughed in the markets. Elders told stories under the silver trees. Now all of it was gone. The enemy had come from the dark void, machines with no heart, no mercy. They swept across her world like a storm, destroying everything Kara had hidden. She remembered the screams of her family, the light of fire raining from the sky. She had run until her legs gave out. When she woke, the city was dead, silent and empty. For days she had searched the ruins, but there were no voices left, only the sound of enemy patrols and falling ash. Her body was weak. She had not eaten for 2 days. Her lips were dry, her eyes heavy. She pressed her hand against the wall of a broken building and listened. Thud, thud, thud footsteps. Her heart froze. The machines. They never stopped hunting. She pulled herself deeper into the shadows. Her people used to fight with honor, but honor had not saved them. She had only her fear to keep her alive. The footsteps grew louder, metal clinking on stone. She held her breath, pressing her back against the cold wall. In her hand, she gripped a small shard of glass. Useless against the enemy, but it gave her courage. The sound came closer. Her mind screamed, not like this, not now. She thought of her mother's smile, her father's voice, her brother's laugh. All gone. If the machines found her, she would join them in silence. The figure stepped into the light, not metal. Not machine, a man. Her eyes widened. His face was scarred, his armor broken, covered in dust and blood. He looked strong but tired, like someone who had fought too many battles. He carried a weapon, black and heavy. Kara did not know what he was. Stories told long ago spoke of humans. Creatures from the stars, fighters who would rather die than surrender. But they were only myths spoken by children. They could not be real. Yet here he stood, his eyes locked on her. She raised her shard of glass, shaking. He did not raise his gun. Instead, he looked at her with something she had not seen in a long time. Not hate, not hunger, pity. He slowly lowered his weapon and took a step closer. "You're alive," he said, his voice rough like stone grinding. Kara could not answer. Her throat was too dry, her fear too heavy. She shook her head, stepping back, ready to run. He stopped, raising his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. From a small pack, he pulled out a metal flask. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. Water. Her eyes locked on it. Her body screamed with thirst. But was it a trap? She stared at him, waiting. He did not move. Only his eyes spoke, tired but kind. Her legs moved before her mind could stop them. She crawled forward, grabbed the flask, and drank. The water was cool, real, alive. She coughed, the taste burning her throat, but she drank again and again. Tears fell down her face. When she finally stopped, she looked at him. "Why?" she whispered. His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Because no one should die alone." The words struck deep into her chest. She wanted to believe him, but trust was dangerous. Still, something inside her, something broken, felt a small spark of warmth. Suddenly, the sound of engines filled the air. The ground shook. Lights cut through the smoke outside the ruins. The machines. The human's face hardened. He moved fast, stepping forward and grabbing her wrist. She flinched, but his grip was strong, not cruel. "They found us," he said. "Stay close." She tried to speak, but fear locked her voice. He pulled her into the shadows, pressing her against the wall as bright red beams passed over the street. The sound of metal claws scraped the stones. Drones hovered, searching, scanning. The human held her close, his body shielding hers. His weapon was ready, but his eyes watched carefully, waiting for the right moment. She could hear his heartbeat, fast, steady, alive. The machines moved past, their light sweeping only inches away. Kara's hands trembled. One mistake, one sound, and they would both be dead. For a long moment she thought it was over. But then the lights moved away, fading into the smoke. The engines grew softer until only silence remained. She dared to breathe again. The human released her gently, his eyes still watching the shadows. "You're not safe here," he said quietly. "Come with me." Her mind screamed to run, to hide, to never trust. But her heart whispered something else. She had no one left. And in his arms, she had felt a strange thing she thought was gone forever. Hope. She looked at him, her voice soft, broken. Who are you? He met her eyes. His answer was simple, human, and in that single word, Kara's world changed. The night was silent, but silence on a dead world was never safe. Kara followed him through the broken streets, her steps slow and unsure. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Every sound made her heart race. She did not know this human, yet she stayed close. Not because she trusted him, but because being alone was worse. His back was broad, his movements sharp and careful. He walked like a hunter, eyes scanning the ruins for danger. His weapon rested in his hands, ready to strike at any moment. He was wounded, yet he moved with a strength she could not understand. Kara kept her distance, watching him with suspicion. He had given her water. He had not harmed her, but why? No one gave kindness for free. On her world, kindness had died long before the fire fell from the sky. She broke the silence. Why are you here? He did not look back. Surviving, that is all, she whispered. He glanced over his shoulder, his eyes catching the faint glow of fire behind them. What more is there? His words cut deep. She lowered her gaze. Once she had everything. Family, friends, a people who sang under the silver trees. Now there was only ash. Maybe he was right. Maybe survival was all that was left. They stopped near the remains of a fallen tower. The human crouched low, listening. Kara froze, her heart pounding. She heard it too. Low mechanical hums moving closer. Enemy drones. The human motioned for silence. He moved into the shadows, pulling her with him. Kara tensed, ready to pull away, but his grip was firm. Not painful, just steady, as if saying, don't move. Don't breathe. Red lights swept across the rubble. The drones floated, scanning with cold precision. Kara's throat burned with fear. If they were found, there would be no escape. The human leaned close, whispering so quietly she barely heard him. Stay still, she held her breath. One drone hovered near their hiding place, its red eye shining into the darkness. The sound of metal claws scraped against stone. Kara's body shook, and she feared her trembling alone would give them away. The human raised a small device from his belt. With a flick, he tossed it across the street. It clattered against broken stone. Instantly, the drones turned toward the sound, their red lights shifting away. An explosion followed, small but sharp. The drones screeched, their sensors blinded. One by one, they moved away, chasing the distraction into the ruins. Silence returned. Kara exhaled, falling back against the wall. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. She had been seconds from death. The human checked his weapon, then looked at her. You need to learn how to hide better, he said. Her eyes narrowed. I did hide. I survived this long. He studied her, then gave a small nod. Fair. For the first time, she thought she saw something like respect in his eyes. They moved again, deeper into the ruins. After some time, they reached a collapsed building. Inside, it was dark but safe from drones above. The human lowered himself against the wall, finally resting. Kara stayed near the entrance, her arms around herself. She did not sit. She could not trust him yet. Sit, he said quietly. She shook her head. He sighed, pulling something from his pack, a small piece of dried food. He broke it in half, tossing a piece toward her. It landed near her feet. Kara stared at it. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but still she hesitated. Why give me this? He leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. Because you'll die without it. His voice was calm, steady. No hidden threat. No demand for payment. Just truth. Her hands shook as she picked up the food. It was rough, dry, but it filled her mouth with life. She ate slowly, never taking her eyes off him. When she finished, silence filled the room. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Kara whispered, My people told stories of humans, long ago before the machines came. They said humans were wild, dangerous, but also unbroken. His lips curved into a faint smile. Unbroken. I like that, her voice cracked. Are there more of you? The smile faded. He opened his eyes, staring at the dark ceiling. Not many. We hide. We fight when we can. Most don't survive long. Kara's chest tightened. So the stories were true. Humans were almost gone, like her people. Extinction was their shared shadow. Before she could speak again, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The sound of engines returned, louder this time. Not drones. Something heavier. The human jumped to his feet, weapon ready. They're sweeping the city. We have to move. Kara's body stiffened. Fear pulled at her. She wanted to run far away, to hide alone like before. But when she looked at him standing tall against the coming danger, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she wondered if being alone was truly survival, or just another kind of death. The engines grew closer, echoing through the ruins. Red light began to bleed into the cracks of their shelter. The human glanced back at her, his voice low but firm. "Stay close. Don't look back." Kara's hand shook as she stepped toward him. She did not trust him fully, not yet, but in that moment she chose to follow. Because for the first time since the end of her world, she was not alone and the machines were coming. The ruins stretched on forever. Broken towers leaned like dying giants and the ground was covered with ash. Kara followed the human through the wasteland, her legs weak but her spirit awake. Every step with him felt strange, almost unreal. She had walked alone for so long that silence had been her only companion. Now there was another heartbeat beside her. He moved like a shadow, scanning the streets, always alert. His weapon rested against his chest, his eyes sharp. Kara wondered how many battles those eyes had seen, how many times death had reached for him but failed. Finally, when the city thinned into empty fields of rubble, they stopped inside the shell of a broken transport ship. The human set his pack down, checking the weapon carefully. Kara sat a few steps away, hugging her knees, watching him. For a while, neither spoke. Only the soft wind moved through the metal skeleton around them. But Kara could no longer keep the questions locked inside. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. He glanced up. "Because you're alive." "That is not an answer." Her voice trembled. "You could have left me there. You could have taken the food and gone." "Why stay?" His eyes held hers for a long moment. Then he leaned back against the wall and sighed. "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything." Kara froze. The weight in his voice was heavier than the ruins around them. She wanted to ask more, but he looked away, his jaw tight. Silence stretched. Then finally he spoke again. "My name is Rylan." Kara blinked. The name sounded strange on her tongue, yet strong. "Rylan," she whispered. He gave a small nod. "Humans, we have always been hunters, wanderers, survivors. When the machines came, we fought. But they were endless, cold, without fear. One by one, our colonies fell." His voice grew rough. "I lost my family, my unit, my people. I should be dead too. But I'm not." Not yet, Kara's heart ached. The story was too close, too familiar. She thought of her brother's laughter, her mother's warm hands. The faces that would never return. In Rylan's voice she heard her own grief. She whispered, "You are the last too." His eyes softened as he looked at her. "Maybe, but humans have a saying, as long as one of us breathes, we never vanish." The words stirred something deep inside her. Her people had said something similar once before the fire fell from the skies. The song of our kind lives in every voice, but now her voice was the only one left. Kara's chest tightened. "You fight when there is no chance. Why?" Rylan's lips curved into a thin smile. "Because no one else will. Machines don't stop. If we give up, then we are already dead." Kara lowered her eyes. His strength was terrifying and beautiful all at once. She wondered if that was why humans were feared even in stories. Because they refused to break. Even when the universe tried to crush them. The moment was broken by a sudden sound. Metal scraping. Kara's head snapped up. From outside, faint red light glowed through cracks in the ship. The hum of engines filled the air. Rylan moved instantly, pressing a finger to his lips. He slid to the doorway, peering into the night. Kara crawled closer, her breath quick and shallow. Outside, enemy soldiers moved in formation. Tall, armored machines with glowing eyes. Their weapons scanned the darkness, red beams slicing across the ground. Kara's blood turned cold. There were too many. "At least 6 of them, maybe more," Rylan whispered without turning. "Stay down. Don't move." But Kara could not stay silent. Her voice shook. "We cannot fight them. We must run." Rylan glanced at her, his face calm but his eyes burning. "They will hunt us no matter where we run. Better to fight on our feet than die crawling." Before she could reply, one of the machines turned its head sharply. A red beam swept across the wreckage of the ship. The air crackled with tension. Kara froze, terror squeezing her chest. She wanted to scream, to vanish into the earth. Rylan's hand rested on his weapon. His muscles tightened, ready. "If they see us," he whispered, "I'll hold them off. You run." Her heart slammed against her ribs. No, she hissed. You will be killed. His eyes met hers, steady and unbroken. Then I'll take as many of them with me as I can. The words cut her deeper than any blade. He was willing to throw his life away, not for victory, but for her chance to live. She wanted to argue, to refuse, but the machines moved closer. The moment was slipping away. Kara's hands clenched into fists. For so long she had only thought of survival. She had hidden, crawled, begged the stars to let her live. But now, watching Ryland's steady courage, something inside her shifted. She did not want to run anymore. The red beam passed over the broken ship again. This time it paused. The machine soldier tilted its head, sensing movement. Kara's breath caught. Ryland raised his weapon, ready to fire. His voice was low, almost a whisper only she could hear. Run when I tell you. But Kara shook her head, her eyes fierce despite her fear. No, I will not leave you. The machine soldier stepped closer. The ground shook with each heavy step, and in that instant Kara knew her life had changed. She was no longer a girl hiding in the ruins. She was standing beside a human, and together, they would fight. The machine soldier stepped into the wreckage, its red eyes glowing like burning coals. Kara's body froze, but Ryland did not hesitate. His weapon fired with a deafening crack, light bursting through the night. The first shot tore into the machine's chest, sending sparks flying. The second blast made it stumble back, smoke rising from its armor. But more shadows moved outside. The rest of the patrol turned, their heavy steps thundering across the rubble. Red beams cut through the ship's broken walls, scanning, searching. The silence of the night was gone. Now the world echoed with war. Stay low, Ryland shouted, his voice sharp. Kara dropped to the ground as gunfire lit the ruins. Metal fragments flew past her face, cutting her cheek. She pressed her hands to her ears, but the noise was endless, like thunder crashing again and again. Ryland moved like a storm. His weapon barked fire, each shot precise, each movement fast. He ducked behind broken steel, rolled across the floor, fired again. Sparks lit his armor, but he did not stop. Kara stared in shock. She had seen warriors before. She had watched her people fight with courage. But never like this. Humans did not fight to live. They fought as if their fire burned brighter in the face of death. A machine soldier burst through the side of the ship, its claws raised high. Kara screamed, scrambling back. Ryland turned, firing point blank. The blast tore the machine apart, its body collapsing into the dirt. But in that instant, another soldier's weapon fired. The beam struck Ryland across the side, knocking him to the ground. His weapon skidded away, clattering into the shadows. Kara's heart stopped. Ryland! He groaned, blood seeping through his armor. The machines advanced, their shadows growing larger, their weapons glowing with deadly light. Kara's whole body shook. Every part of her screamed to hide, to run, to vanish into the night. That was how she had lived. That was how she had survived. But not now. Not when he had stood for her. Not when he had given her water, food, hope. Not when he was the only reason she was still breathing. Her hand brushed against a piece of broken metal lying on the floor. It was heavy, sharp at the edges. Useless against machines, her mind whispered. But her heart shouted louder. She grabbed it. The machine soldier closest to Ryland leaned down, its claws ready to tear him apart. Kara screamed, swinging the metal shard with all the strength in her body. The strike glanced off its armor, leaving only a scratch. But the sound made the soldier turn its head toward her. Its red eyes locked on her face. She trembled but stood tall, gripping the shard tight. Stay away from him, she shouted, her voice breaking. The machine raised its weapon, and in that instant Ryland rose from the ground. His face was pale, his body weak, but his eyes burned with fire. He grabbed his weapon, aimed, and fired. The blast ripped through the machine's head, sending it crashing into the dirt beside her. Kara fell back, her chest heaving. Ryland stumbled toward her, his steps heavy, but his eyes never leaving the enemy. Brave, he muttered, his voice rough. But don't ever stand in front of one of those things again. Before she could answer, another soldier entered. Then another. The wreckage shook as the machine surrounded them. Ryland raised his weapon, his hands trembling from blood loss. He fired again and again, each shot echoing like a heartbeat. Kara picked up another shard of metal standing beside him, her body ready even if her hands shook. The fight raged. Sparks filled the air. Smoke burned her eyes. Ryland's fire never stopped, even as his strength drained. And Kara found her own fire hidden deep, rising with every scream and every strike. Finally, After what felt like an endless storm, silence fell. The last machine collapsed, its body smoking, its red eyes fading to black. The ground was covered with broken steel and the smell of burnt metal. Kara collapsed to her knees, her body trembling. Her shard of metal slipped from her hand. She could barely breathe. Rylan leaned against the wall, his weapon falling to the ground. Blood ran down his side, staining the dirt. His breaths were sharp, each one a battle. Kara crawled to him, her hands shaking. She pressed them against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Don't close your eyes," she begged. "Don't leave me." Rylan managed a weak smile. "You fought," he whispered, her eyes filled with tears. "Because you showed me how." He coughed, the sound rough, painful. "Then maybe you're more human than you think." Her heart twisted. She had lost her people, her family, her world. But here, in the ruins, in the middle of blood and smoke, she had found something she thought was gone forever. Not just survival. Courage. The fire within. Rylan's body slumped, his eyes closing. Panic rushed through Kara. She shook him, crying out, "No! Stay with me!" His hand moved weakly, gripping hers. His voice was faint but steady. "Not done. Yet." And then the world shook again. From outside, the sound of engines filled the air. The machines were not finished. More were coming. Kara held Rylan's hand tight, her face set with new determination. She was no longer the girl hiding in shadows. She was ready to fight. The world outside was still dangerous, but inside the ruined ship, there was only silence. Smoke drifted through the cracks, carrying the smell of burnt metal. Kara pressed her hands hard against Rylan's wound, her eyes wet with tears. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You cannot leave me now." Rylan's breathing was shallow, but his eyes flickered open. He managed a weak smile. "You're louder than the machines," he muttered. Kara almost laughed through her tears. "Fool," she said, shaking her head. "You fight until you break, that's the human way," he whispered before his eyes closed again. Kara looked around desperately. She needed something, anything to save him. In the corner, she saw his pack. She crawled quickly, opened it, and found supplies. Strips of cloth, small bottles, strange tools she didn't understand. She had seen her people heal wounds before. She remembered the herbs, the cloth, the gentle touch of her mother's hands. Now she tried to do the same. Her fingers worked fast, wrapping the cloth around his bleeding side. She pressed down hard, ignoring his groan of pain. "Breathe," she told him. "If you stop, I will drag you back from the stars myself." When the bandage was tight, she sat back, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. Rylan lay still, his face pale, but his breathing steadier. She touched his hand lightly, and for the first time since her people's fall, she did not feel completely alone. Hours passed. Outside, the machine searched, their engines rumbling through the ruins, but they did not find the broken ship. Inside, Kara stayed awake, watching him, guarding him. When he finally stirred again, she was there. "You should rest," he murmured. "I will rest when you stand," she replied firmly. He gave a weak chuckle, though it quickly turned into a cough. "Stubborn," he said, "and you are not?" She shot back, her eyes narrowing. For a moment, silence filled the space. Then Kara spoke softly. "Tell me, Rylan, what are humans truly like? My people told stories, but I never thought you were real." Rylan opened his eyes slowly. He looked at the broken ceiling above them, as if searching for memories. "Humans, we are many things. We laugh too much. We fight too much. We love too much. And we break more than we should, but we always stand again." Kara listened, her heart heavy yet warm. "My people said humans were dangerous, wild." He smiled faintly. "Dangerous, yes, but not to those we choose to protect." His eyes met hers. "Not to you." Her chest tightened. She wanted to look away, but she could not. His gaze held her like gravity, pulling her in. She whispered, "I should not trust you." "Then don't," he said calmly. "Just walk beside me." "That's enough." Kara fell silent, her mind torn. But deep inside, she knew she already trusted him more than she should. The hours passed into another night. Kara dozed for a moment, her head resting near his shoulder. She dreamed of her family, of laughter, of silver trees that no longer stood. When she woke, she felt his hand resting lightly over hers. She froze, but she did not pull away. Outside, the night was quiet. But not for long. A deep rumble shook the ground. The machines were drilling now, tearing through the earth. Their search was spreading wider. Rylan's face grew grim. He tried to push himself up, but pain stopped him. Kara caught him, helping him sit against the wall. They are coming closer, he said. Kara's fear rose. Then what do we do? You cannot fight like this. Rylan looked at her, his eyes sharp despite the pain. Then we find another way. There are human bunkers hidden underground, old but strong. If we reach one, we might live. Her eyes widened. There are more humans? Maybe, he said. Or maybe only shadows of what was left behind. But even shadows can give us weapons, tools, a chance. Kara's heart raced. For so long she had believed she was the last voice of her people. Now he was telling her there might be more than just survival. There might be a fight. But the thought terrified her. She whispered, I cannot lose again. I cannot watch everything burn a second time. Rylan's hand squeezed hers weakly. His voice was steady, quiet, but filled with fire. Then don't, this time fight with me. If we fall standing. Kara stared at him, her fear battling with something else. Hope. For the first time, she imagined not just surviving, but rising, striking back, refusing to be erased. The drilling above grew louder, closer. The machines were tearing open the ruins, searching for them. Dust fell from the ceiling as the metal walls shook. Kara's hands tightened around his. Her voice was trembling but strong. Then I will fight. With you. Rylan's lips curved into a faint smile. His eyes closed for a moment, but she could feel the fire still burning inside him. And for the first time, Kara's fire matched his. The machines above roared, the earth trembling as their claws dug deeper. The bond between them had been forged in blood, in loss, in silence. Now it burned brighter than fear, a bond beyond species. The ground trembled with every strike of the machines above. Kara pressed her back against the wall, holding her breath as dust rained down. The drilling sound was louder now, closer, like claws tearing open the bones of the earth. The ruins above them would not last long. Rylan leaned against her for support, his face pale but his eyes sharp. His weapon rested across his knees, ready though his strength was fading. They'll break through soon, he said, his voice low but steady. Kara's chest tightened. She looked at him, wounded, bleeding, yet unshaken. He was ready to stand, ready to fight, even if it meant death. But her heart screamed against it. She had lost everything once. She could not bear to lose again. There must be another way, she whispered, her hands trembling. Rylan's gaze met hers. There is. But it will not be easy, she frowned. What way? He pointed deeper into the tunnels beneath the wreckage. Before the machines came, humans built shelters, hidden places filled with tech we never wanted the machines to find. If we reach one, we might have weapons. We might even find others. Kara's breath caught. Others. The word alone was enough to send her heart racing. Could it be true? Could there really be more humans alive, hiding in the dark corners of this broken world? Rylan's eyes studied her face. But it's a risk. The tunnels are dangerous. Some have collapsed. Some are filled with traps meant for the enemy. We might not survive the journey. Her mind spun. If they stayed here, the machines would find them. If they ran into the tunnels, they might be buried alive. Either way, survival was only a fragile thread. She looked at him, her voice breaking. Why do you keep choosing to fight? Why not give up? His lips curved into a tired smile. Because giving up is easy, and I've never been good at easy. Kara almost laughed, but her heart ached too much. She pressed her hands together, whispering in her own tongue, a prayer her mother used to say. But the words felt hollow now, Rylan noticed. His voice softened. What did you say? She shook her head. It was a prayer. But the stars are deaf now. Rylan's eyes darkened. Then we make them listen. The ground shook again. Cracks spread through the walls, dust filling the air. The machines were almost through. Kara's fear screamed at her to run, to hide, to curl into the shadows and wait for the end. But another voice, one she had only recently discovered, whispered something different. Fight. Her hands clenched into fists. She looked at Rylan, his strength fading, but his fire unbroken. If he could still stand, still choose to fight even while bleeding, then what excuse did she have? Her voice was trembling but strong. Then we go to the tunnels. Rylan gave a small nod, pride flickering in his eyes. Good, help me up. She slid her arm under his, lifting him carefully. He grunted in pain but forced himself onto his feet. Together, step by step, they moved deeper into the ruins. The tunnels stretched below, dark and endless. Their footsteps echoed as they descended, the light above fading until only shadows surrounded them. Kara held a small glow stick Rylan had given her. Its pale light barely touched the walls, revealing strange symbols carved into the stone. Some were human, some she did not know. What did they mean? She asked. Warnings, Rylan said, and directions. If we follow them, we might find what we need. Kara traced her fingers across the carvings. For the first time, she felt like she was walking through history, through the last whispers of a people who refused to vanish. Hours seemed to pass. The tunnels twisted and turned, some blocked by fallen stone. More than once, Kara helped Rylan climb over debris, his strength failing but his will pulling him forward. Finally, they reached a wide chamber. At its center stood a sealed metal door half buried in rubble. Strange lights flickered faintly along its surface, still alive after all these years. Kara's eyes widened. This is it? Rylan nodded slowly, his hand brushing against the cold metal. An old bunker. If it still works, we might have a chance, Kara's heart pounded. She looked around, the silence pressing heavy. And if it doesn't? Rylan met her gaze, his voice steady. Then we make our last stand here. Kara stepped closer to the door, her hands brushing against the strange symbols etched into its frame. She could feel the weight of countless years, of countless lives who had fought before. Her mind screamed with fear. What if they opened it and found nothing? What if the machines broke through and crushed them? But her heart whispered again, better to fight than to vanish. She turned to Rylan, her voice steady at last. Then open it. Whatever waits inside, we face it together. Rylan smiled faintly. He pressed his hand against a scanner on the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groaning sound, the ancient locks began to move. Lights flickered brighter, spreading across the chamber like fire awakening after long sleep. Kara's eyes widened as the door slowly slid open. Inside, darkness gave way to rows of machines, weapons, and strange glowing cores. Old human technology hidden and waiting. Her breath caught in her throat. This was no grave. This was power. Behind them, the tunnels shook violently. The sound of metal claws scraped closer, engines roaring as the enemy drilled into the earth. Kyra's fear returned, sharp and cold. But now, there was something stronger beside it. Choice. She looked at Rylan, his face pale but burning with determination. He had given her courage. He had shown her what it meant to stand when everything else was broken, and now it was her turn. Her voice was soft but firm. Then we fight. Not to survive, but to live. Rylan's eyes gleamed with pride. That's the spirit. The machines roared in the distance. The bunker lights glowed brighter. The world trembled on the edge of war, and Kara made her choice. The bunker lights flickered to life, glowing like stars trapped underground. Kara stepped inside, her breath caught in wonder. Rows of ancient machines lined the walls, armor, weapons, consoles with blinking lights. It felt like walking into the beating heart of a long-lost army. For the first time since the fall of her people, she felt something dangerous rise inside her. Hope. Rylan limped in after her, leaning against the wall for support. His hand brushed across one of the glowing panels. It still works, he said, his voice rough but filled with fire. Humans built to last. Kara stared at him, then at the weapons resting in their racks. With these, we could fight back. Rylan's lips curved into a thin smile. That's the idea. Before she could answer, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling as the sound of engines roared through the tunnels. The machines had found them. Kara's heart pounded. She rushed to the doorway and saw the glow of red lights cutting through the darkness. Shadows moved, dozens of enemy soldiers marching closer. They are here, she whispered. Rylan forced himself upright, grabbing one of the heavy weapons from the rack. Its surface shimmered with faint blue light, humming like a sleeping beast awakened. He looked at her, his eyes sharp. Then we make our stand. Kara swallowed her fear. She picked up a smaller weapon, its weight strange but steady in her hands. She had never fired such a thing before, but her heart was set. She would not run. Not anymore. The bunker door groaned as the first machine slammed against it. Sparks flew. The metal bent. Rylan glanced at her, his voice calm despite the storm outside. Stay close. Watch my signals, and don't waste a shot, Kara nodded. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steady. The door cracked. Red light spilled into the chamber. The machines poured in, claws raised, weapons glowing. Rylan opened fire. His weapon roared, sending bolts of blue energy ripping through the enemy. Sparks flew, metal shattered, and the air filled with the smell of burning steel. Kara followed, squeezing the trigger of her weapon. The recoil shook her arms, but the shot hit true. One machine collapsed, its glowing eyes fading into darkness. Her heart raced. She had killed one. She could fight. The machines swarmed forward, their numbers overwhelming. The chamber echoed with fire and screams of metal. Kara ducked behind cover, firing again and again. Rylan fought like a storm, his body weak but his spirit unbroken. Together they held the line. But then the ground shook harder. A massive figure stepped into the chamber. The enemy commander. Its body was towering, armored in black steel, its red eyes blazing. In its hands it carried a weapon that hummed with deadly power. Kara's blood turned cold. What is that? Rylan's jaw tightened. Trouble. The commander raised its weapon and fired. The blast shook the chamber, tearing through the floor. Kara was thrown back, her body hitting the wall. Pain shot through her chest, but she forced herself up. Rylan staggered, blood staining his bandages, but he raised his weapon again. "Keep shooting!" he shouted. Kara screamed as she fired, her shots striking the commander's armor but barely scratching it. The machine advanced, unstoppable, each step shaking the earth. Rylan moved closer, his fire relentless. Sparks exploded from the commander's chest, but still it marched forward. Kara's weapon overheated, glowing red. She dropped it, her breath ragged. Panic surged through her veins. "It's too strong." Rylan's voice cut through the chaos. "Then we don't break it. We break its heart." He pointed to the glowing core inside the commander's chest, flickering behind the armor. Kara's eyes widened. She grabbed a fallen weapon from the ground, aiming with shaking hands. The commander's red eyes locked on her. It raised its weapon. In that instant, Rylan moved. He threw himself in front of her, his body shielding hers. The blast struck his armor, sending him crashing to the ground. Kara screamed. "Rylan!" He groaned, barely able to lift his head. His voice was faint but steady. "Finish it." Kara. Her tears blurred her vision, but her hand steadied. She aimed at the core, her whole body trembling with rage and fire. "For my people," she whispered. "For you," she fired. The shot pierced the glowing core. The commander froze, its eyes flashing wildly. A crack split across its chest, and then it exploded in a storm of fire and steel. The shockwave tore through the chamber, throwing Kara to the ground. When the smoke cleared, the machines were gone. Only broken metal and silence remained. Kara crawled to Rylan, her heart breaking. He lay still, blood covering him. She lifted his head into her arms, her tears falling on his face. "Don't you dare leave me," she whispered. "Not now." His eyes flickered open, weak but alive. His lips curved into a faint smile. "Told you. Not done yet." Kara let out a shaky laugh, holding him close. In his arms, she felt the weight of everything, loss, pain, but also something new. Something stronger than fear. Hope. The bunker lights glowed brighter, as if the old machines themselves recognized what had been born in the fire. Not just survival. Not just resistance, a bond. A future. Kara pressed her forehead against his, her voice soft. "You pulled me back when I had no one left. I will not let go now." Rylan's hand weakly gripped hers. His eyes closed, but his smile stayed. And in that broken world, surrounded by ashes and silence, Kara finally knew. She was no longer alone. She had no one left, until a human pulled her into his arms.